My name is Anya Sirota, and I'm the principal of a studio called Koaki. We're based in Detroit, Michigan, and I have a background in film and semiotics as an undergraduate, and then I studied architecture at Harvard and graduated in 2008.
So what inspired your submission for Objectivity? Had you submitted also before for the Arc League?
Yeah.
Seems to be the common trend.
I think lots of people have submitted before, and I have to be honest, I had too. But this year's this year's theme seemed very close in sensibility to the kind of work that we do, which is that we look to make objects that have objectives and attempt to make impact at the urban scale. So when I saw the theme this year, I was pretty excited to give it a try.
I liked what you said during your lecture about sort of before the design process really even starts. There's sort of an analysis of the community. There's this intervention. There's you going out and almost identifying like your clients, your funding. Could you kind of just reiterate that, if you will?
My partner, Jean-Louis Farge, is from France, where we spent some time and we're really aware about how much investment is made into civic infrastructure. And then when we came to Detroit, we were pretty shocked about how little was being invested in the collective landscape and in civic architecture. And we tried to figure out how we could work in a situation where there was so little investment. So given that, and an aspiration to sort of imagine that there could be a future with a cultural ministry with a more robust set of investments in the urban landscape, we tried to figure out how do we bring in resources to communities that might not have any? How do we assess the assets, the cultural assets of a place? How do we use culturally rooted programming to instigate and activate sites that might otherwise go unseen? So we've been using these kinds of ingredients as fodder, or like as in order to catalyze possibilities that might seem far-fetched, but once they're in place, they're kind of urban prototypes for future investment and future cultural infrastructures.
So, from a pragmatic standpoint, do you let's take Bootsy's sunglass story, or do you look at the building and then ask the questions and figure out the story? Do you talk to locals who point it out? What attracts you to the space to the beginning? What comes first?
Absolutely. So we've worked in the North End, where it's very difficult to tell what happened there. Where are the key cultural sites? Where did important things happen in music history, in the sort of birth of funk and the cultural vanguard of Detroit? So to cull those stories, we do things that are very different from typical community engagement exercises. We set up spaces. For example, for a year, we ran an art space that invited community members to do their own installations, to have meetings, to have parties, to use the space with us. And from those interactions, from a broad network of friendships that we build in community, we start to understand what's important for people and what they know about space and what characterizes its value. So it's a slow-cooked process. It takes years to figure out what really is happening, what's happened there in the past, and what is the projected future. But we do it by creating spaces that are adaptable, that invite residents to participate in their own programming, that create very audacious pop events in unlikely scenarios, that are joyous and inclusive.
Building off, since it's a forthcoming project, the shoe store, could you tell me just a little about, I guess, for the naked audience member, what the space was and the little history, and then what you want to do with it?
Yeah, we were working at the Oakland Avenue Urban Farm, and there was a vacant building that we acquired. And when we acquired that building, we knew it was a shoe shine. And we called the Detroit Sound Conservancy, and they're sound preservationists, music curators, and we consider them archaeologists in the city. And they did a research project about what could possibly have happened on that site, and they discovered that it was an incredibly important African-American venue, and that it had a speakeasy in the back, and that, all of these amazing